Today, I get to sit down with Giulia, who is an incredibly inspiring entrepreneur that spends her days helping other people break out of their matrix. She graduated college having massive student loans, working a corporate 9 to 5 job, being stressed, and just kind of going through the motions to now today having built her own brand, her own business where she is living her version of a dream life, continuously trying to improve and better her own life and help others do the same. I was incredibly inspired and grateful to get to sit down and have this chat with her, and I hope that you enjoy it just as much as I did. Giulia, you are an entrepreneur and a creator and a coach. And I know that on your journey, you have gotten yourself out of the matrix so much so that you have created a podcast called Break Out of the Matrix. Can you tell us a little bit of your journey and what that's looked like for you?
Absolutely. So I really like to say that my journey started when I graduated college with $25,000 worth of student debt. And that was a really difficult time for me because I was just working my full time job. I had these dreams of wanting to move to New York City and all of these exciting things. And then I got this paper that I'm $25,000 in debt. And I was like, well, how am I going to move to New York City? At the time, I was working part time initially post grad. So I was making like $300 a week. I was like, how am I going to make this work? Like, I have all these big dreams, and I've always been the kind of person that I didn't want to sacrifice my dreams because of my circumstances. So instead of letting it limit me, I really looked at this as like, how can I expand? How can I really step into like a new version of me, and what would that look like? So I always sold my clothes on Poshmark. I was like a big reseller. It was something I just did for fun and like a little bit of extra money in college. I first started, I remember when I graduated high school, and I was like, oh, it'd be fun to like make a little bit of money going into college. Let me just sell some of my old clothes. So I did that throughout college and I loved it. And my family would always come to me and be like, Giulia, can you help me resell this? Can you help me resell that? And I'm like, sure, like whatever. It was like a fun thing. And it was actually something that my grandpa and I did together because he was like a collector. So I would help him sell things on Craigslist, and may he rest in peace. But it was always like our thing together. So it was really sweet. And then I cranked it up a notch. I was like, okay, well, I have these skills with my Poshmark account. What about if I could make something out of this? Like, what about if I could just go really hard while I'm working my full time job, sell on Poshmark, do all the things, and really just like create this abundance and like freedom for myself? So I had this mindset. And then a month into my full time job, COVID hit. And I was like, whoa. I was like, now I have all this time because I was living in the matrix. Like, I was living in the rat race. I was working this 9 to 5. I was waking up at 4 a.m., exercising in the morning, get to work by 8 a.m. It was an hour and a half commute from where my mom's house was in Long
Wow.
Island to New York City. So 3 hours round trip. I would like try to work on the train, like do my Poshmark on the train, but there was no service, like no strong service to do that. And then after, when COVID hit, I was like, I have all this time. Like, I don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. I could wake up right before I start work. I could work out in the middle of the day. And I really learned a little bit of like this remote lifestyle and like what that would look like and feel like and be like. And that's kind of when I started like opening my eyes to like entrepreneurship. And I was like, well, this is cool. Like, I could shower in the middle of the day. Like, I could work out in the middle of the day. And it really just fascinated me. So it really motivated me to pay off my debt, because now I was at a point where I was like, okay, like I'm working this full time job. I want to move to New York City. COVID was kind of a blessing in disguise because I had the opportunity to like live at home, save my money, pay off that debt. And then once I became debt free, which was like my first big manifestation, then I started looking at apartments. I found my dream apartment, and that's kind of just like when it all kickstarted. And 2021 was a year of like massive growth. It's when my social media account started growing. I was debt free. I moved to New York City. I met my now boyfriend. So it's like so many things happened so fast. And I have no doubt it's because I really started to like believe in myself and really push myself to what was possible.
That's incredible. So much respect. I know that that must have been very scary to do. And like we actually spoke about earlier, is that it seems like you're someone who, like, if you have something you want to do, you go for it. And to me, looking from the outside, like, you just seem like you have your shit together. Like, you're someone who like has a goal, goes after it, and like nothing can stop you, kind of thing. And I think a lot of people will look at you, and maybe also me sometimes, thinking like, oh, they got everything together. Like, they just know what to do, when to do it. So I'm curious. I get very vulnerable and like deep on this podcast. I'm curious, for people who maybe see themselves currently like they don't have those balls, like they don't know how to let go of the fears that they have. Like, what would you, first of all, what was your biggest challenges or struggles throughout that process, and what would you share with others who maybe just need a little bit of support in doing that same thing, want to get out of the matrix and challenge their
Yeah.
norm?
Yeah. So I would definitely start with the fact that nobody has their shit together, including myself. And I think social media has become such a highlight reel. And it's like, I used to always say that when it was just like friends and family, I would be like, this person posted this, but like, I know what's going on behind the scenes. And now that I'm in the like entrepreneurial space, and I don't know people on a more personal level, it's always feeling like I'm behind, or I'm late, or I'm not as successful as this person. I really started to feel this when I started reaching like bigger milestones, which is kind of like contradiction. So just back in September, I had a really, really successful launch for my program, Manifest Your Dream Life, my signature group coaching program. It was so successful, like the biggest launch I'd ever done. It was like so amazing. Like dream clients fell from
Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Like dream clients fell from the sky. I was like, where are these people coming from? Like, these are the people I'm like manifesting. It was really like just a full circle moment. And I remember like a couple of weeks later, I was like, not like, I was obviously so grateful, but I was starting to get these like egotistic beliefs, this like sadness, this like deeper unfulfillment. And it's like, oh, well, it wasn't this number, or you didn't do as good as this person. Look at their launch, blah, blah, blah. And that's so real. And it's like, that's why I want to bring it to the table, because even working with my one on one clients through coaching, right? My clients going through the same thing. It's like, you have your best launch, and then you start to think to yourself, but was it really that good? And it's like those inner beliefs, that's like such deep rooted shit, that it's like no freebie, no technique, no nothing is going to get you out of that in like 24 hours. Like, that's shit that you brought into this lifetime, that's going to take you a lifetime to heal from. It's like those deeper rooted beliefs that are really passed on to you. It takes a lot of undoing. And it's like, I don't even know if I'm directly answering your question, but like, I'm so deep in with this because this happens a lot, where it's like I'll see people all over social media and be like, oh, like do this thing and like manifest in 24 hours and like do this. And it's like, that shit's like clickbait. Like, of course that can work, right? There's so many things. Like, I used to be the person that promoted that stuff because that's what I thought manifestation was. Like, one of my best selling master classes is how I manifested $7,000 in 7 days. And it's like, yeah, that stuff works, but it's a deeper belief and a deeper rooted shadow work that needs to be done to achieve those goals. So I feel like a lot of people in this spiritual community, they'll feel behind, or they'll feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I didn't do it in 24 hours, or this and that. And it's like, we're all on our own timelines. Like, we can't be comparing ourselves, and we have to really trust in our own magnificence, our own divine timing, and really be gentle with ourselves, because we're all coming from different deep rooted beliefs that are the reason we are where we are today.
I love that. And I agree with you 100%. So if someone has these deep rooted beliefs about themselves, what is your approach? How do you go about that and maybe start changing those limiting beliefs, those deep rooted shadows that you were talking about?
Yeah, so this is what all my programs are about. Like this is like my thing. This is where I really help people. And I would say to really like look in the mirror. Like look in the mirror and face your demons head on. Like face yourself head on. Really get so real and deep with yourself because I think way too many people are in denial. And I know there's even parts of my life, probably parts of your life, because we're human beings, that it's like we're going on, but something doesn't feel right. And it's like, there's so many times in my life where it's like I've tried to do something or like achieve a certain goal. And I'm like, it's my strategy, it's the algorithm, it's these things. And it's like, it's not. It's the deeper, deeper rooted shit. And it's like, how can you undo that? You have to get to know yourself. You have to look into the mirror and say, I am afraid of. These are my fears. Like, bring it up to the surface, bring it up so far where you say the thing you're most scared of out loud, because the more that we keep it inside, keep it in our head, that internalizes, that manifests in not so pretty forms. So it's like, how are we going to bring that to the surface? We have to get real. We could do that through journaling, through meditation, through visualization, breath work, so many different modalities. But it's like, when are you going to stop pretending like there isn't that deep rooted stuff that needs to be healed? And also just remember that like you're a work in progress. So everything that you may be going through, there's no, I made this my Instagram caption today. Like there's no destination. It's all a journey.
I love that. Really taking a deep dive into yourself. I love that. You were talking a little bit about manifestation. And would you share, I know you say you don't use techniques, but would you share, like, maybe you have steps that you help your clients work through? If someone has something they really want to manifest, what would be your advice to go about doing that? If someone has never tried, even maybe doesn't maybe even believe in that stuff, what would you guide them towards doing?
Yeah. So I always say that I'm the least woo woo manifestation person. Like I keep it so real. I know like Mel Robbins talks a lot about manifestation. I love her approach because she talks about really taking like practical action. And that's really what I'm trying to embody here too. That it's like manifestation is literally just intentionally creating your reality. So for someone who's new to the manifesting world, what I would tell them is like, think of it like this: you have a blank canvas and you're the painter holding the paintbrush. What would you create for yourself? And I think the number one thing that blocks people from their manifestations is being afraid to dream big, because they're afraid of like, well, what if it doesn't come true? What if it doesn't happen? And that's when I tell people, what about if you play the positive what if game? What about if it all comes true? What about if the only thing holding you back is you being afraid to say it out loud, which is usually the case? So, in that case, I follow a three-step, I wouldn't even want to say technique. It's really like my three steps to manifest is ask, believe, receive. So it's like you can do that. And it's more of like a foundation and we build upon that. So it's like, how can we ask, believe, receive in terms of like ask for what you want as if it's already yours, right? So I love saying like, I'm so happy and grateful now that, then believe, start building that new belief system, which takes time. And you could do that through affirmations. You could do that through meditation. You could do it through like affirmation audios. I have so many like recordings, like as freebies and
We'll
stuff
make
like
sure to
that.
link all of that below in the description so they can go check that out. Yeah.
Perfect. And then receive, like be open to receiving, in the way that we open our hearts to receiving is through taking inspired actions. So this is where a lot of people get tripped up, where it's like, I feel like a lot of people will just think things are going to fall from the sky. And of course, there's some element to that. Like when I was saying my dream clients, like they fell from the sky, but it's like I was promoting my course. I was promoting my products and services, and then I let the universe handle the rest to deliver me the most amazing, beautiful people.
I love that because a lot of, like, if you watch the movie The Secret, a lot of the action state taken is taken out and away from that. So some people believe that they just have to think it and then it comes into life. So I love that you're
Mhm.
using like the more create it with a paintbrush a brush approach.
Yeah.
I really, really love that. That's absolutely beautiful. I know that you also, now that we're talking about creating your dream life, I know you also help a lot of women and maybe even men build their brand and their business. If someone is wanting to do that but don't know where to start, I know you shared your story as to how you got started while still having your other job, and then how
Mhm.
COVID kind of helped you and let you into that. But do you have a few tips to someone who has a little secret dream to start something? What would be,
Mhm.
how should they get started on that?
Yeah. So I would look at it and say, what is one tiny step that I could take today? So it's like, if we just do the things that we keep procrastinating, that's where the massive success is going to come from. Because so many times it's like we know what we have to do, we know what's going to get the ball rolling, but we don't do it because we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to look stupid. We're afraid to be embarrassed. But it's like, what about if instead, we looked at it as like one tiny step today leads to a better future tomorrow. And it's like, you know, this coming from a background in fitness. Like the first day you work out, you're not going to see the results. Maybe not even after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And you'll see some results, but not the dream body. And most people are giving up because after one workout, they don't see the dream body. And that's the same with manifestation. It's like, it's not, your life isn't going to instantly be changed in 24 hours. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. But what happens when you see people's big results in the macro, right? Big transformations on TikTok and Instagram, they're not portraying what they did every single day to get them to where they are now.
I love that. That's great advice. Um, and something I think we all need to be reminded of every now and then. Do you still sometimes like catch yourself making these excuses, not taking action because you're scared of what people will think or scared of whatever? Do you still have you caught yourself recently? Is there a time where you remember that, having done that yourself?
Absolutely. I feel like there's so many times where I'll go through something, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like I did that, I achieved that, right? And you're like, I'm healed, I'm better. And then you realize that life is just about peeling back the layers. So it's like layers of an onion. So it's like first we start at this one layer and we're like, I'm healed. And it's like almost naive for us to think that we'll ever be fully healed and to just trust that like this is a process. So sometimes I'll say things. This is why I keep investing in my growth as well. I invested into a mastermind outside of the one that you and I are in together, which is how we met. But, that was a multiple 5-figure investment. And it's like, that was huge for me. And it's like huge expansion for me to really trust in myself, trust and believe that like this is possible. And it's like, I notice now that it's like, I still have limiting beliefs. They're just not the same as they were a year ago or 2 years ago. They're very different, but it's like at each level, our problems get bigger and better. That's how I really like to think of it.
Amazing. Yeah, there is something, and like people, you gotta, this is like something we all need to be reminded of, how powerful it is to be surrounded by people who are thinking bigger as well, if that's something we want for our life. Both within the mastermind, the two of us are in together, but the fact that you invested 5 figures into a mastermind to be around these people, to get more knowledge within what's their thinking like, and it's just so effective. I agree
Yeah.
100%, and it's something I need to be reminded of, and I think maybe everyone listening needs to be reminded of as well. Also, just like reminding ourselves of who is it that we maybe need to take a little bit of distance from, because maybe someone in our surroundings have a limiting mindset, and that's really something to be aware of as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, Thank you so much for everything that you do and for challenging yourself, challenging your norm, stepping outside of the matrix to help other people live their dream life as well. I think you're such a great representation of the fact that you stepping outside of your norm, your comfort zone, um, living through that, taking that journey, that fearful journey yourself, you today are able to help others do this, the same thing. And I think that is just a gift to this world. So thank you for doing that for all of us and for sharing with us today. I have one final question. If you were to have everyone in this world challenge their norm, what would you recommend them do? Like, what kind of norm would like for them to change? Is that like a mindset? Is there something you have in mind that um you would wish for everyone to challenge themselves within?
I love that question. I would challenge people to dream bigger. I think people don't dream big enough because they're afraid, like I said, of failure. Or what about if I let myself down? What about if you just decided today to dream bigger, dream with the lid off, and trusted that your success was inevitable and watch how much your life will change?
Wow, that is beautiful advice. I love it. Thank you so much. If people want to go follow you, maybe look into your courses, your programs, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at I am Giulia Guerrieri, TikTok, and my YouTube channel, which I'm sure you'll link it all below.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us all.
Thank you for having me.
And to everyone else, remember that in order to grow, you have to challenge your norm.